Hey everybody, back porch on Bob, actually front porch today. I'm here with my buddy Chase Akers. Chase is actually the son of a good friend of mine that I used to play keyboards way back in the day when he was a Belmont student and gigging on occasion. And Tim Akers, his dad is a session player in Nashville and a good friend. And Chase has recently graduated from MTSU, right?
Yep.
And he is a guitarist, he's a musician, he's a writer, and he's doing social media for this book release I'm doing. So I was really, really glad to get him because I couldn't have done it, as you well know. And so when you get those posts that have been coming out, Back Porch with Bob.
I will be September 1st.
There you go, buddy. Plug it along.
Yep.
I wanted Chase to just spend some time here on Back Porch with Bob just to talk about, he read the book before he took me on as a client.
Yep.
and he was enthused, and he thought, you know what, my generation needs to hear some of this. Tell me, kind of in a nutshell, why do you think the stuff that I've talked about and the topics I touched on should make a difference?
I Will Be is a book about, I think, looking at the cards we've been dealt in life and learning how to forgive on all fronts. And I think it's obviously a mixture of Bob's memoirs, personal stories, musings, and thoughts on life in general. And it is, I'm not trying to date you here, but it's an old school approach to modern living and
it is,
and modern Christianity and how to live as a human and as a Christian in today's society. And it's a very no-nonsense approach to what we're working with here. And the reason I think my generation can benefit from reading I Will Be is, I don't necessarily mean any offense to the generation I come from, but the millennials, for the most part, we are pent up on a pedestal of entitlement. And it's an entitlement that says, I don't really need to work. Someone else will do it for me. I don't need to pick up that piece of trash over there. It'll get picked up by someone else. And I think that bleeds over into all areas of life where, I don't need to have goals. I don't need to blah, blah, blah. It's all about, social media. It's all about, how many Instagram likes did I get? Oh, I better take that selfie down because it didn't get enough response, or or the Kardashians, or any, just fill in the blank, any consumable media. I think we're so focused on surface level things that we forget, even Christians and non-Christians, it doesn't matter. We forget to look inward at the heart of people, and we're so focused on fleeting physicality and things on the surface level that don't last.
Right.
And
I agree with you a lot on what you're saying. And one of the reasons I felt inspired to do the song is an inspirational song, I Will Be. And by the way, you're going to get a free giveaway this week of it if you want one. It talks about stuff that they're kind of reminders, and that's what I Will Be, the book, is doing. Since I come from a boomer generation, and I was raised with some precepts that were just foregone conclusions. It was like my dad didn't have to tell me more than a couple of times certain things because I got it, Dad. And if I didn't get it, he'd make sure I did. And but it was about self-reliance. It was about self-starting. It was about forgiveness. And I think we drag around stuff. And that's a reason, that's one of the reasons I wanted to write the book, was to inspire people of any age, but also to find some way to get at 20s and 30-somethings to say some of these things that they may have never heard.
mm-hmm.
Or if they did, they've forgotten and blown them off. And so your responses when you first read the book were so, I thought, well, cool. Maybe we will reach some of that age group with this book. And,
and I think, you said something about self-reliance. That's really the thing that hit me the hardest about that book, is that I read I Will Be. It's a short, easy read. It's 70 pages at the most. And I tore through it. And what I gained from that was, self-reliance is key in all things. And that's, I don't mean that from a standpoint of doing things in the power of ourselves and our own understanding, but I mean the self-reliance that it requires to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and say, okay,
I got to get on.
I got to get on. I can either choose disparity and depravity and choose anger and unforgiveness towards my parents or my friends or some girl that wronged me, or if it's a girl, some guy that wronged me, or I can choose to forgive.
There you go.
And say, onward. I learned from this. I will work hard.
And you had things to Chase. You had physical. I want you to just touch on it. I didn't want to. I don't want to make a huge deal of it, but you've been living with a physical disability your whole life.
Yeah.
And so you had to deal with it in school, and now tell us a little.
Well, yeah, living with I've got cerebral palsy. It's a neurological disorder that causes certain muscle groups to not really function as they should, and developmentally it can affect a few things. Growing up with that, it was really different because you got the mindset of like normal kids. They can go out for football and go out, and scrape their knees and everything. And so sometimes I think the stigma is parents of differently abled children, they sometimes approach that with fear, and they kind of can say like, oh, you're special. They kind of coddle the fear.
And your mom and dad didn't?
No. My upbringing was such that, my parents, I wanted to skateboard. Well, they bought a skateboard. I'd be 8 or 9 years old, and they knew I was going to fall. They knew I would lose my balance and scrape my knees and bust my butt. But I think what they taught me through that and what I learned in school and in everything is just to grit your teeth and do it, because God doesn't make mistakes. God doesn't screw up. And that's been, I'm turning 23 next month. And that's something I've got to daily choose every day, that it, just because I'm not, playing football on the recess field anymore is it doesn't mean that being differently able doesn't translate its way into early 20-something life. It does. I've gone through darker times where I've got to think, I need to hide this, or I need to apologize for this, or I need to explain myself before anyone can develop some sort of thought about me. And that's nothing but
we could draw a circle around Chase and say that's what he was dealt.
Right.
That's his situation. Right. But that's replicable. That can be anything. That can be abuse from a parent. That can be. I was raised poor as dirt.
Right.
It can be a lot of things that do that to you. And my little chapter toward the end of the book is get up, buck up, suit up, shut up.
And that's the
that
key
little
right
four-step
there.
is what you're talking about, because you can't let those things that you've mentioned here color your life.
They can't define you. And
No,
I think growing up, my family and my parents and those who loved me showed me that one piece of God's design is still God's design. You know what I mean? It's not.
He didn't screw up.
If he doesn't make mistakes, then he must have a reason for giving me cerebral palsy, for being born premature. There must have been a reason. Now, it's called faith for me to accept that and say, you know what? In due time, you will show me. You will show me why, but I don't have to know. I don't have to wake up every day. Hey, why did you give that to? I don't ask that question. I ask, how can I be a vessel for you? How can I use the things you have given me rather than what you haven't given me?
Love it.
To your glory. And that's what I think my generation can learn from. Whether you're differently abled, or you've been hurt, or you've been abused, or you grew up poor, like you said, or
you lost somebody,
or you
lost a father, or mother, or
anything like
wife,
that. It is on us, and with the love and forgiveness of the Father, to look at that and say, I will not be defined by hurt. I will not be defined by pain. And that's what I will be is about. That's what hit me the hardest. Is I've had my dark days. I've had my dark years of just choosing that anger of like, why can't I walk like everybody else? Why do I have a limp? Why do people notice this? And that's the way I think Satan can get in there and toy with us and
twist it around,
and lie to us and say, everyone notices. You're different. You're not good enough. You don't make the cut, and you've got to stand up. I Will Be talks about this. It's standing up to the lie and saying, I know who I am. I'm God's child. And that's what my family taught me to choose, and even into my late teens, early 20s, when the choice lies on our shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, to look at God and say,
It's a choice.
we're okay. We're all right.
I'm not there yet,
but
I will be.
I will be. Exactly. And
Just always take the long view. Look at the end game.
yep.
And this week in another edition, or last week in an edition of Backyard, I talked about dreams and destiny,
Mm-hmm.
and how much struggle in the Old Testament story of Joseph, and how much struggle he had, but God was with him in all of it, and he chose God in his decision making process. So, and
And God honored him in that.
He honored him in that.
Elevated Joseph to a point of
Exactly.
leadership, and
He brought him to his destiny in the dream that he had for him when he created him. So that's our good news today to
Yeah.
you guys. And I want you to get the book September 1st on Amazon, and be looking for Chase posts that he that he keeps doing for Bob for this thing. And man, we enjoy it. I appreciate you coming out here
Yeah,
to the
man.
woods with me, buddy.
Oh, it's
I really
beautiful
do.
out here,
Thank you so much. Have a good day, folks.
all right.